Hey, what is up, cool people of the interwebs? We are back at it again with another GameLusters by Try It or Deny It for the month of September. You know, I have my usual squad with me, so let's do some short introductions for anyone new that is listening. I have Brennan.
Hi.
He's so enthusiastic. And I have the lovely...
So,
Anyway, so we are going to kick it off with last games that we spoke about real quick before we roll into September for y'all. So first we're going to talk about Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Remastered Edition. That is a tongue twister. Say that 5 times fast. The genre is ARPG, developed and published by Square Enix. It came out on Nintendo Switch and the PlayStation, and it's sitting at an OpenCritic score of 64. How do we?
I can kind of see it. I know, I feel like last episode I was mad hyped for this whole thing, but I don't know. I feel like the nostalgia goggles had to come off at some point, and reading through some of the reviews today and yesterday really just put that nail in the coffin for me. I have the demo downloaded, and it's also a lot cheaper than I thought it was going to be for some reason. It's only $30, and I think that's probably a solid price point for a relatively niche Switch port. But I don't know, a lot of the reviews were just saying how the gameplay itself was, kind of still stuck in 2004, which is a common complaint I feel like we've seen with various remasters. Like that one PlayStation remaster with Medieval. People said the same thing about that one, where it was the gameplay is stuck in the 90s or whatever. So I feel like it's one of those things where if you're like me or any of the other people, like the 12 people that played it when it came out on the GameCube, you'll probably enjoy it. I haven't even myself played it today for sure, whether or not it's stuck in 2004. But I'd like to say that people are probably right when they say that. And it was a shame about the no co-op. But I felt like the giving away the free version, or playing the demo with someone that has the full version and giving them access to everything, that still to me on paper sounds like a really cool concept, and depends on how Square/Nintendo implement the itself, which again, as I've read, isn't the best. Something about vanishing friend codes and party lobbies not being there all the time, and
I was hoping it was going to be a really cool remaster that was going to be really good, because, shit seems amazing. I want to play it again when you get older. But from what I'm seeing in the reviews, yeah, they're saying it's just dated. And to what it...
There's no amount of remastering that I think can fix that.
Yeah.
That's base gameplay that people are having problems with. People are saying that the combat feels real dated because there's only you can only do 3-hit combos or a little bit of magic, which gets that was kind of par for the course for spin-off Final Fantasy games circa 2004 on the GameCube. But today, I don't know. I don't know, when we have stuff I'm just trying to think of other remasters that have been almost better than the original, and it's it's not as easily said and done as just throwing on a new fresh coat of paint on your game and saying, "Oh, here we go." Get stuck in that 2004, which I think that we talked about in the previous episodes. I'm pretty sure that we were this could be good, but this is a remake of a game that came out a very long time ago. So it's a shame.
If you're going to bring back especially one from 2004, I feel like you can't even remake it or remaster it. You basically have to make a whole new game or stuff like this happen, because nobody is you're open to a wider audience now than you were back in 2004. So you're going to have people who have expect that this game is going to perform like a 2020 game. They don't want to play a 2004 game.
Yeah.
And the way... I will say, especially with the way that JRPGs have evolved over the years, this isn't one of the ones that
Yeah.
You're doing yourself a disadvantage by not uh, adapting it and making it for your 2020 crowd. If you think that you can live off the nostalgia of everyone who played it in 2004, you're going to be sadly, because if people said it was shit back then and it's still shit now, guess what? It's still fucking shit. Like, clearly
Mhm.
nothing has changed. So, if you want to remake or remaster, you have to put a lot of work into it. And I feel like you have to update. And you can't just, like you said, slap a new coat of paint on it. You have to get down to the core and be like, okay, well, how has everything changed from 2004 to now? And what do I have to change to, get the attention of crowd that I'm trying to advertise to and that I want to? Because like IGN says in their blurb, dated design, clunky multiplayer systems, and unacceptable load times make Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Remastered Edition terrific. I don't want to play a chore when I play a video game. I don't want a dated design. I don't want clunky gameplay for multiplayer, especially when I play with my friends. And I sure as hell don't want to be staring at my face in a black screen for longer than a minute when it comes to load times. I see enough of my own goddamn face every day.
Tell
So,
me about it.
like, again, like, it just goes back to, if you're gonna do this, you need to actually do it. You have to get down to the fundamentals of the game and adapt it for the crowd that you're trying to sell to now. Also, apologies, you can hear all that storming in the background.
I feel like the to approach to quote remakes slash remasters. Again, that's a proper remake though. I don't know. I wonder, and well, there's another. There's actually I feel like a few games that we're going to talk about, and just a few that kind of will have this same kind of not necessarily a problem, but it's a challenge that I feel like they'll face. But yeah, I mean, you maybe sometimes you can just slap a new paint on something like Kingdoms of Amalur, Re-Reckoning. But yeah, like people just be real quick to go, we've already played this before. And I think that's why Resident Evil 2 Remake was such a breath of fresh air, because yes, you've played it before, but you're seeing it from an entirely different perspective, that you can make out the same places, but it's still new. And not in the Final Fantasy VII Remake way, where they just add random shit you in between those cool moments that you're just like, I hate this. There has to be a fine balance between the new and the old. Otherwise, it's too much of one thing, and people will get upset, as they usually do.
honestly, I think Square Enix should just done a Crystal Chronicles instead of.
I agree, and it's not. I hate to say that because, like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just a sucker for this one franchise that Final Fantasy came out with when I was a kid. But like, I don't know, there's something about Crystal Chronicles, the chibiness of it, and the simplicity of the Final Fantasy was just so nice. Especially as a kid, when I didn't really have time for, I don't know, Sephiroth's bullshit. That was only until much later. But yeah, there is a need for it, and there were even a couple of games on the DS that spun off as like a sort of spin-off that were decent. All I'm saying is that I think a sequel would have been cool. I don't know, man. This is like one of those things where, like, I know you look back to your childhood and you go, was I wrong? Was I wrong this whole time? Was the whole series really bad and I was just an ignorant, small, naive child? Or are my adult, jaded eyes just tearing me apart oh so slowly?
Both.
Stop remastering games. They really make me think too much about my childhood, and that's not something I can confront just yet.
I feel
Oh my
like
god.
the only time you should really remaster a game is if you're taking it from one generation that's recent to the next gen. Like, for example, if it's not backwards compatible, I don't remember if it was or not, but like Naughty Dog did The Last of Us remaster PlayStation 4 and then just bundled it in. with that. If you're doing something like that to bring it to a next gen console and all you're doing is look nice, maybe adding a couple small changes, I say fucking go for it. But when you're doing something like this where it's been years, I think you really need to rethink going at the fun, just going on the surface. If you're going to remaster a game from way back when and modify it for recent consoles, regenerations, what I wanted to play in 2004 is hella different from what I'm playing right now. Let's play fun Barbie games on the Game Boy. I almost wanted to say DS.
Wow.
I owned a 3DS for a hot second, and then I traded it in along with PlayStation 3. We all know. But moving on from Final Fantasy, since it was apparently a final disappointment, I got left.
That was horrible.
It was.
I'm so.
That's
Anyway.
I'm mad at the fact that I know you.
God damn it. Somebody appreciated it. That's all I know. Thank you to the one person that did. Anyway, we are going to toss it over. Honestly, this is all I'm going to say about it. It's football. We know a lot about actual IRL football, but when it comes to video game sports football, we don't play that, so we don't have any real opinions on it. So we hope for all the people that actually take it seriously and play it professionally. We hope you guys like it and you enjoy it. And if you have any issues on it, let us know. We're always interested in you guys feel about the league coming out, especially something like this where we, in our last episode, went over not the details of the game roughly, but more so on tournaments that they have and how big those are, and roughly compared it a little bit to other tournaments. So like I said, let us know your thoughts on Madden NFL 21, and if you guys let us know, maybe we can hit up your live streams on Twitch. Now, with that being said, we are going to kick it over to September, and we are going to start off with a game that got a lot of really mixed leaning to the negative side of first impressions, which is Marvel's Avengers, basically looking like that knockoff Walmart version of a Barbie doll your parents bought you when you were a kid, because, well, the other one was just 69 cents more expensive. The genre is action adventure. The developer is Crystal Dynamics. The publisher Enix. It's coming out on PC, PS4, and Xbox One, and the release date is next Friday.
Yeah, this looked okay. Okay. It looked mediocre. It looked just okay. Mike and I were talking about it a bit before the podcast started, and it's just okay. Really, I mean, the beta expectations were, I guess, met. I'm not really sure that people were too excited for this. I mean, I feel like the only real bit of outrage over this game or any kind of news was related to the whole Spider-Man thing. How Spider-Man was just being listed as like a PlayStation exclusive character. People are all up in arms about exclusives like they've never happened before. Which I was kind of okay. But yeah, I don't know. The more I think about it, though, I know I just kind of hijacked the conversation from how I think the game is to people getting upset over Spider-Man, but I don't know. I think that it relates, right? Like, it's gonna be mediocre. Like this whole experience with the lack of Spider-Man, it's gonna be mediocre. I don't really know. I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I watched beta gameplay. I read his reaction to the game, and like it said, it's mediocre. I really don't think it's gonna do special.
Seeming like another just arcade like beat 'em up, but
yeah,
with Avengers characters and like I don't even know, like what it did sound like was tedious. And a lot of the previews, people were talking about how like the loot was it was either the loot or the abilities or both were tedious to get, because like I don't know, if they have some kind of loot system where I think you can like craft and upgrade things, and people were talking about like playing through the same level 4 times just to get a specific weapon or like a specific ability. I don't know, man. That just sounds needlessly complicated for a quote mash 'em up. be like just an arcade mash 'em up kind of game. Did you see that one QTE on I think it was on Reddit or something, but it was someone playing the beta and they were playing as Thor, and there's a QTE, right? Where he just has to press like X or something, and the guy just never presses it, and the screen stays like that for like a minute. It's just frozen in time, and then he hits X, and then Thor smashes the ground. It's like, wow, you can't even fail the QTEs. Like, what's the point? It could have just been a cutscene. What is going on here? And I feel like that exact GIF kind of just encapsulated the entire game for me. It's just like, this didn't really have to be a thing, but it is. I still don't like it because it's needlessly complicated. This should have just been a real simple thing, but nope. You can't even fail the QTEs, so again, that was just one tiny little thing I saw on Reddit. I don't want to bash the game for one QTE thing, but it's my thoughts in general. Just very milquetoast.
I mean, I hope that's something. If that's a little pathetic.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, it was just kind of funny just sitting there watching it for 30 seconds, being like, is it gonna be like something gonna happen? Is my video frozen? No, it was just the game. Granted, it could have just been very beta, and like they could have implemented something after, but it's, again, to me, that's just saying that they're focusing on spectacle than they are the actual gameplay or game feeling. I don't want to say that this game is bad. I just don't like it when things are just mediocre. I feel like that's just like a waste,
Well,
because at least if you're bad, you have the chance to beat the room, right? Like Tommy Wiseau, so bad that you're good. So if you're mediocre, you have no chance. You're just stuck there forever.
And I feel like this might be one of those cash grabs at the same exact time. Like, if they get good, then I feel like that's what a lot of people are going to turn around and be, oh my god, it was just a cash grab at, the Avengers, so popular. And apparently it's not even tied to the movies or the comics. So I'm just like, okay, so where the fuck are they going with? If you're not going to follow anything that's already laid out, where the fuck are you going with? Because where the fuck can you go?
And that's what I think this is. It's just cash grab. The Avengers are incredibly popular right now. So they're just like, hey, Spider-Man worked. Let's try doing the entire...
I really hope that's not how they looked at it. Because, I don't know, I feel like even Spider-Man was just so different in a way. Like, I don't know. I'm also just not really one for, like, I guess Avengers in general. But I just kind of look at this and I go, yeah.
I kind of think...
When I watched 20 minutes of gameplay, the guy playing as Hulk just sat there and pressed the same button for 20 minutes.
It's always fun. It's always a good time.
Yeah.
That's what I want to spend $60 on, sitting there and pressing X repeatedly, going, wow, this is great. Wow, great.
Yeah, man.
I don't know. We'll see. I don't have any hope for it, in all honesty. Like I said, I think it's a total cash grab. I don't think it's going to come out of it, especially when you have a whole bunch of characters and you have to write, a whole new story for them that isn't connected to any of the universes. Like, how many times can you sit there and tell the same story over and over and over and over and over again and make it new, fresh, and exciting? So I don't have any high hope for this. If it does, well, great for it. If it sucks, I don't.
All I could say to Haley is welcome to comic books, where you just keep reading the same thing over and over for 30 years.
I think that's why
and I collect comic books.
It's still the same.
Yeah, kinda.
Yeah, One Piece is still going. I'm pretty sure they still haven't found that treasure yet, and they were trying to do that in episode 1, so...
I'm like 100 chapters into that. I'm not gonna lie.
I love One Piece. Not bashing One Piece. I'm not here to bash any anime.
I like One Piece. But anyway.
One Piece.
I used to love One Piece, but after 20 years, I had to give up.
Yeah.
It happened. But
hey, at least Avengers is putting the new Miss Marvel in there. Something.
Oh, I like Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel's cool.
At least it's doing that.
I'm not just saying that either. Like, I actually think Miss Marvel's pretty cool.
Saying that. Are we buying, trying, or denying?
Deny.
I mean, I'll try it if they have Spider-Man in them. No, I'm denying it.
Okay. Well, you heard it here, guys. Marvel Avengers doesn't make the cut, but we're swinging into another game. Just might. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. It's skateboarding, if you can't tell by the title. Its developer is it Vicarious Visions?
Vicarious.
Vicarious, yeah.
Thank you. And it's published by Activision. It's coming out on PC, PS4, and Xbox One, same date as the Marvel Avengers, September 4th. So Avengers has a little competition. We'll know who is going to be the winner on that day.
Okay, so we were talking about doing remakes right earlier. And from what I'm seeing from Tony Hawk and the reactions to the demo, this is a remake that they're doing right.
Yeah. I just keep reading that they nailed the feel of the original game. And I don't know. And again, it's hard for me to personally talk about this kind of game in particular because I haven't played a Pro Skater in God knows how long. And even when I did play Tony Hawk games, they were mostly Thug and Thug 2. So, like, my personal recollection of Pro Skater is just so long ago that, I don't know, I almost can't say anything. But from judging on everyone else's opinion, this does seem to be an extremely faithful remake, which is it's kind of weird. I wasn't really expecting this, to be honest. No offense at all. I love skateboarding games and Tony Hawk and skateboarding dash games, to be more clear. But I don't know. I kind of figured that I would have figured that this would have been the thing that people were like, no, this is so 90s it hurts. But it seems to be the complete reversal of that, which is really interesting. Like, it's not, it's, you know, if no one's played a Pro Skater game before, it's pretty much, there's different objectives within the level, quote, right? Like, you have to get all the videotapes. You have to spell horse, not spell horse, you know what I mean? You play horse, you know, and try to get the most points and whatever. There's no storyline as there would be in Thug. So it's like, I don't know, I'm kind of shocked, but at the same time, like, excited that people are as hyped for this now. You know, I was hoping that, not hoping, but I was fearful that this would fall into that exact trap that we were talking of earlier. This is just too old. But hey, we had one of these in so long, so maybe that's why. Who knows?
And they are making some nice additions. They're adding new tricks. There's going to be new skaters, new professional skateboarders.
I like how they kept in like the current versions of themselves too, like today's version of them. That's super cool. It's hilarious. It doesn't really make any sense to me, but to see like 50, 60-year-old Tony Hawk on a skateboard in a video game pulling a 900 to me is hilarious.
And it's still got Rage Against the Machine, so plus.
That's all that matters.
Yes.
That's all that matters.
That's all I need.
Superman's in that, right? Superman has to be in that.
I don't know if it's in the remake, but yeah.
It
has to be.
It has to be, otherwise it's a no-go from me. It's the only thing I remember from that game.
That and Rage, they both got to be in there.
Oh my god. I don't remember Rage Against the Machine, to be completely honest with you, but Superman, I will never forget that song.
I remember trying to play a Pro Skater game, not good at it, so I just stopped. And
it's hard if you don't know what you're doing.
And I feel like, one, that was me when I was younger because your girl didn't really game. But also, I feel like a lot of people are excited about this because I feel like Tony Hawk is a pretty well-known household. Even if you are a lot young, you at least can associate him with skateboarding or know of skateboarding. You know him in some like association. So I feel like people are excited about this because he's a household name, but also we don't have any games right now. Who else has released a skateboard? And I know skateboarding isn't like forever, but I feel like it's one of those games that you either played as a kid or someone who played as a kid, and that. So.
Yeah, all my friends had Pro Skater. It was awesome.
Yes, the same thing with me. Everybody I knew was playing Pro Skater.
Yeah, it was great, but. Even like what you were saying now, though, not only do we not really have any, like, we just don't really have many skateboarding games in general. The only ones that we really do are kind of like super hyper realistic simulators on Steam. It's like a handful of them out, but there's been no general casual audience / arcadey skateboarding game in God knows how long.
The cheats in there.
It's like, it's kind of like one of those remakes that you didn't ask for, but you also didn't know you so.
Yeah, to be honest, yeah, that's kind of how it's shaping out to be. Because the more I read about it, the more people are like, "This is actually really solid." It's like, at first I was skeptical, but now you have my attention.
And I feel like skateboarding in itself has come a long way since release, so I feel like there's enough out right now that they can keep it fresh and definitely like you said, like they're going to use the current version of these people and add new tricks that have been add new skaters that probably, you know, the younger audience knows. They know these being added and be like, wow, I like that guy. I'm gonna pick this game up so I can play as him on his. So I feel like this game will do very well as long as the game itself is done.
And so far, according to what people are saying, it seems like it's being handled with a lot of love. The game, at least according to this one guy, it feels exactly like it did back then. And I know that's only one testimony of some random guy on the internet, but it has some inherent value.
Hey, you random guy on the thank you. But
Thank you.
Thank you.
Personally, I'm not going to pick this game up. I'm not big into skateboarding, like I said. Picked it up, then put it right back down because I knew it wasn't a game for. But I'm excited for other people who are.
Yeah, I'm buying this.
I'm definitely gonna try it. Definitely willing to give it the old college try.
The old good 30 minutes or nothing.
Pretty much.
30 minutes and then I want a refund. It's the new, if the professor isn't here in 15 minutes, we legally get to leave.
And I always held up.
That happened once with my friend professor. We all left. She was. But anyway, I can't speak a lick of French, but this game has absolutely nothing to do with France. We're talking about Kingdoms of... Oh, somebody pronounce this.
Kingdoms of Amalur.
Amalur.
Amalur. Amalur.
Where did
Ambulance.
Where did
Kingdoms of Ambulance.
Slowly, letter by letter.
Okay. It's a RPG. It's developed by, is that Keiko?
Kaiko? I don't know. Couldn't really find too much on these guys.
Anyway,
Yeah,
some studio we have no clue about, and published by THQ Nordic. God, that's a name I haven't seen in a while. Their platform is coming out on PS4, Xbox One, and PC. It's coming out 2 days after Pro Skater and Marvel's Avengers on September 6th. I know absolutely nothing about this game.
Okay, so this is another one of those random fantasy random fantasy games that I just picked up in my childhood and went, this is pretty good. Yeah, I don't know. I remember when it came out and like there was a demo on the Xbox. I got my hands on it and it was like, I don't know how exactly to describe it, but it's an RPG. You make your own character. There are different skill trees in the sense that, you know, you have your mage, your fighter, and your rogue, but the trees were kind of all over the place, and you were really incentivized to experiment and try out all of the different combinations between those three. You know, and it was a combination of all three. If you wanted to do jack of all trades, there was a jack of all trades tree for you to do. So it was really cool to try to come up with this character of your own. The other thing that I always thought was kind of interesting was just the writing of the game in fantasy. I forget who. I'll look this up because I can't remember. It was written by someone who's like, he wrote a lot of shit.
It's R.A. Salvatore.
R.A. Salvatore, yeah. Written by R.A. Salvatore, and it just, I don't even really know how to describe the game itself. I know I've said that a couple times, but it truly is this weird mashup of these different fantasy RPG elements and mechanics. smashed into one. The combat was very fast paced and open in a way. Basically, it was a decent fantasy game at the time. Didn't really do too well. I remember it being like, oh my god, and don't quote me directly on this, and I should have looked this up beforehand, but I didn't. But the studio eventually sold the license of the game to the state of Rhode Island at some point. That might not be correct, but I'm fairly sure that it's pretty close. But anyway, the gaming studio eventually, after it was released and put out a couple of DLC for it, they just went completely bankrupt. And this whole franchise was kind of just in limbo for a while. So I think that was why THQ Nordic eventually picked it up, because they had eventually bought the rights or the license from whoever had owned it at that point. And hence we're getting a remake. Why? I couldn't really tell you. Because to be honest, I don't really think that this game sold really well enough in the first place to have avoided developers' bankruptcy in the first place. But again, that's not for me to comment on because I don't know why they went bankrupt. But it was kind of a shock to see this being remastered. What I will say is I don't necessarily think that it will be any less of a niche title this go around. Even with those years of people being able to be like, oh, this once existed. I don't know, did either of you even heard of the franchise beforehand?
Yeah, I checked this out at a friend's house. He had it 60.
So real quick, tell me I don't know, what did you think of it? What was your take on the whole thing, I guess?
It was decent. I understand it's more of a cult following that it has. But I mean, it was okay. It was a little faster than most normal RPG.
Point made. No one's heard of it. Very little. I don't want to say no one, but very little.
The reason I remember this game was the controversy around the studio that developed it.
Right.
That's how I remember this game, because I remember the studio that did it, 38 Studios, was founded by a MLB Major League Baseball pitcher.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so he funded the whole game. He did all that, and then for whatever reason, after the game came out, declared bankruptcy.
Yeah, right. Okay, and
the whole studio just went to shit. I have no idea why. That's the only reason I ever remember this game. It's because that happened.
I remember that whole controversy. I don't want to say super well because I didn't even know that guy was an MLB pitcher, but yeah, man, I just remember the whole blow up of the studio and being the whole time what's gonna happen to this game? And no part of me saw a remake, and no part of me saw added content to said remake, which I think is kind of cool, by the way. The only reason I feel like I would be picking this up, well, again, biased, because I played it in the past, and it's I've tried to get back into it because I don't think I ever finished it. I tried to.
So,
one of those things where...
let's give some background information. According to Wikipedia, which we know from our say isn't always a reliable source, but most reliable sources out there because they include sources. So the company was originally based in Massachusetts, but then moved to Rhode Island to secure a $75 million loan guaranteeing the state's quasi-public economic development. In 2012, they released Kings of Amalur Reckoning, a single-player action role-play video game for several platforms. Positive reviews, and sold an estimated 330,000 copies in its first month, rising to 1.2 million copies in the first 90 days. They shut down a few months later. The failure of the controversial Rhode Island loan spurred investigations by new media.
I think it was partly owned by Rhode Island because they funded the loan, right? And I think because they couldn't pay back the loan, I think the license went back to the state of Rhode Island. And that's how Rhode Island just had this fucking license to a game. They were like, "Oh, we're a state. What do we do with this?"
Parents it kind of seems like the gaming studio was bust from the beginning. They had defaulted on a $1.125 million loan on May 1st when a check was returned due to insufficient funds and assets. The second attempt was made, payment was made by the studio on which was 7 days past due, and they made a $1 million wire transfer, and then a $100,000 personal check from unnamed source actually went through. And so God knows where all that money went, but I feel like it wasn't to the gaming studio, if you get my hint. Hint, hint.
But at the end of the day, I'm glad this game's getting a second chance on life, because if it does catch the eye of enough people, there might be a sequel, baby. Woohoo! That'd be cool. I'm thinking about picking this up for sure, especially because I never finished it when it first came out, and I always regretted that.
Yeah, I'm more of a try it on the...
Yeah, I think I'm gonna... It's definitely a try it for me because it's, but I'm definitely going to wait to see plays and play, because I definitely want to see what I'm getting into. Even though on the article it says that this game is only going to be $40, so not that expensive. It's also going to be less than 30 gigs, so not taking up too much room. So I'm definitely going to try it if it's out.
Yeah, I would say give it a shot. I think the story is kind of interesting. It has a lot to talk about. A lot of this world is built on fate and destiny, and people specifically have dedicated their entire lives and professions to predicting the future in order to get a better outcome. And your character comes along and is the one person who's not bound by fate. And I think it's just a really cool conversation of, like, does destiny exist? Is free will a real thing or not? And it's been a while since I've played it, so I'm only guessing that those are the kinds of questions that they ask. But it was an interesting ride, and I would recommend it if you're into something like that, or if you've been itching for like a high fantasy RPG.
The lawsuit and shit even went up to 2000. So this shit has been going on for, and the state of Rhode Island and the FBI have been in some hot shit, and a lot of money due, and a lot of people trouble to come back to life after all this. Damn.
Yeah, for real.
Oh, okay. So now we know that states can get into funky business, give money to willy-nilly, a pro baseball player probably, and launder your money to your shell company. But getting off the topic of that and going back into the fantasy world, we're going to talk about Baldur's Gate. It's an RPG. It's developed and published by Larian Studios. Platform is PC, coming out on... Also, I know nothing about...
If you want old school RPG...
Oh, absolutely. I've messed around in both Baldur's Gates. Never played anything to completion. The only kind of CRPG that I've played in this realm would, I guess, be like Pillars of Eternity, that kind of, big party-based RPG, and I'm really looking forward to it. But the one thing that I'm like a bit on is the whole turn-based combat. So I was watching a preview on this. I think they have like early access content available, or they will be having early access content available. But regardless, as I was watching it sort of just looked and felt like I was watching Divinity Original Sin 2, the sequel. You know what I mean? And like, I understand that Larian has worked on it, and obviously Larian has worked on the other Divinity games. So it's not to take anything away from that. And if anything, it's actually quite calming and familiar in a way, maybe to ease people into Baldur's Gate and being like, we know that a lot of you probably haven't played Baldur's Gate, but we know a lot of you have played Divinity. Mm-hmm. So let's try and mash the two together and see what works. And I can't not like that idea on paper. But there's a part of me now, having played the real-time strategy with pause, where I'm like, I hope that's an option. I hope that at some point in time, this Baldur's Gate 3 isn't entirely turn-based, and I don't know. Maybe that's just because I'm a weird person that just likes real time with pause. Not saying that I don't like turn based. Um, I don't really know. If anything, even if you would be looking at it as if it were Divinity 2, the sequel, I think it's a baller. It looks baller as hell. Um, it looks exactly like just more of the kind of stuff that we've thought Larian to be able to do. Craft these stories, make interesting quest lines that have various different paths and multiple ways of accomplishing them. Like, I've gone through the beginning area of Divinity 2, I can't tell you how many times, and there's probably still stuff that I've missed, despite it being a rather kind of small area. Each zone feels like it's jam-packed with stuff, and again, even looking at this article that we pulled up before, the number of combat instances and enemies and written lines of dialogue compared to the two games is just astounding. You know, um, 22 battle instances in Divinity 2 versus 80 plus in Baldur's Gate 3. That's insane, dude. That's crazy. All in all, I think that this is going to be great. I think that Larian has obviously shown that they can, bring their A game to big, fantastical RPG adventures, and to finally put Baldur's Gate back into the light of a lot of people, because I feel like a lot of people haven't really played Baldur's Gate, and if they have, it's because they played it when it came out. Someone like me, I feel like a lot of people my age probably wouldn't have played Baldur's Gate in their lifetime. But someone like Mike, I feel like, even Mike who started with it, if you're looking for an RPG, this is what you're going for. Exactly. Baldur's Gate pretty much was the epitome of the RPG for a while, I'd say. I'm just excited for more of that, dude.
I just remember Baldur's Gate because my dad played.
So you never played them?
I mean, I dabbled in the first one, but I've never actually beat. I never beat it. I tried it out because I was like 10 when the first one came out.
Yeah.
My dad plays a lot of strategy games. He used to play old school RPG. The first one, he was really ill with Baldur's.
Well, still, that's really cool. Yeah, I've dabbled. Could never get into it fully, to be honest.
I know absolutely about this. The only reason why I know Boulders is because D&D. That's it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
That's it. Like,
a lot of people, they only know this because of D.
Like,
yeah.
I know the name in reference, but also because they have a Baldur's Gate version of Haunt at Hill House or whatever that. But they have a Baldur's Gate board game that's made in the same fashion as that one. And that's how I know. But I've never actually played Baldur's Gate. If this is this anything like Diablo?
No.
Okay.
Not really.
It's kind of got the top down.
Yeah, more or less.
That's probably about it.
They were both isometric, especially both when they came out. But that's about it. Gameplay wise, they're vastly different.
Yeah.
Especially compared to Baldur's Gate 3, which, again, if it's entirely turn based, then even Baldur's Gate will be different from its previous iterations.
I feel like I'm watching some gameplay now that came from Summer of Games 20 by IG, and it looks interesting. I feel like this is a game I might have to watch someone else play this, because I've never played it, but we'll see. It seems cool enough, like the graphics.
If you like D&D,
yeah, definitely. I feel like this is almost quote D&D the game for all intents and purposes.
Now I might actually.
Honestly, if you haven't played Divinity Original Sin 2 at some point, I would very highly recommend that. Especially if you're excited for Baldur's Gate and somehow you still haven't played that yet. Or if you're trying to dip your toes into like a turn-based RPG. Divinity Original Sin 2 is, my god, one of the best RPGs I've ever played. Especially in a co-op experience. Tons of fun. Very, very interesting.
So, final opinion. Are you guys going to buy it?
Definitely.
yeah, I think I'm up.
Like I said, I think I'm going to try it. We'll give it a shot, see how it goes, and pray for the. But that is all we have lined up for the month of September. And I am going to toss it at final thoughts wrapped up.
Stay in drugs, don't do school. I mean, don't stay in school, don't do drugs. Boom. Nailed it.
Yeah, you said.
And I just want to give a shout out to anyone who has the By Trip podcast. Thank you guys so much for supporting us, even if you've only 30 seconds or 30 minutes or the whole thing. Just thank you for listening. Make really bad jokes. We hope to see you. God damn it. But from the bottom of our hearts, we thank you so much for sticking with us over the past year or however long I tried or deny it with us. But we're going to wrap it up here now. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you on the side next month for October. Have a great day.
Later.
Bye.